Well, good morning. Welcome to our next Sniblet. Everybody's talking about football. Will we have it? Will we not have it? Here is our, hey, I want to give you a forecast for Sunday. Thought it'd be appropriate because we want to stay in contact with you. Here's our forecast for Sunday. High of 82, low of 57. Partly cloudy, partly sunny. It doesn't look like any chance of rain. So that means probably between 9 and 10 in the morning, you're looking at low 70s. So it looks like a great Sunday. And hey, for those of you who have not been back, there's reason for some of you that nobody can question whether you choose to come back or not. That's up to you. But I just want to give you a heads up. The Sunday first hour service that we have, great opportunity. If you're kind of jittery, you can come. You can sit on the perimeter. It really is a fun atmosphere, and it's beautiful out there. Our latest COVID-induced parental tweet. This comes from a mom who's just tired of having her children criticize her cooking. So she writes this: when your children ask you what is for dinner, beat them to the punch and tell them, "Ooh, disgusting." So it's like, "Hey, what's for dinner?" "Ooh, disgusting." What's that? They're going to call it that anyway, no matter what you make. You know, you can just see kids going, "What are we having for dinner?" "Chicken." "Oh, do I like chicken?" I mean, they're just naturally, it's a knee-jerk reaction to call it ooh, disgusting. So beat them to the punch and just call it that. We're having ooh, disgusting tonight for dinner. Last week, we went back and we looked at Ruth, chapter 1, verses 1 through 5, looking at the whole idea of anytime you respond to a dilemma, you can endure it, you can escape it, or you can embrace it. And we looked at the pros and cons of each of those. And Naomi and Elimelech, well, they chose to escape, which doesn't turn out well for them. Elimelech, he dies. His two sons, Mahlon, Chilion, they died. Let me read it again because there's some insight here. And I want you to be thinking as I read this, what's in a name? So now it came about in the days when the judges governed. So it's during the period of the judges, some of the darkest times in Israel's history, that there was famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, there was no bread in the town of bread. Bethlehem, that's the name of the, literally means house of bread. So there were no bread in the house of bread in Judah. And they went to sojourn in the land of Moab. They decided to escape. Maybe there's a brighter horizon there in Moab. He went with his wife and his two sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi, which means pleasant. And the names of the two sons were Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem and Judah. Now they entered the land of Moab. Moab was the nation of Moab. You remember, were descendants of Lot, and he had incest with his daughters. I know, ick. It's a pretty gruesome thought. But the descendants of that offspring, well, they became Moabites. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her two sons, and they took for themselves Moabite women as wives, which at that time was just unheard of. They would say that about a Moabite, if they moved into Israel, would have to wait 10 generations before they were allowed into the tribe of Israel. They kind of were, it was that, the Moabites were that repulsive to the Israelites. And the name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth, and they lived there about 10 years. Now, it doesn't look like either one of those, Orpah or Ruth, have children. Then both Mahlon, which we draw the connections, seemed to be married to Ruth. Chilion was married to Orpah. And Mahlon and Chilion, Elimelech's two sons, they die. And the woman who was bereft of her two children and her husband. So again, there's the situation. You've got the husband, two sons, die. So this whole escaping thing didn't work out well. They didn't escape pain and suffering. Pain and suffering is there where they went. Now, they had drifted from the significance of their names, because Elimelech, his name meant God is king. Can you imagine? What a great name. People say, hey, this is my friend, God is king. Well, you think having that name, you would want to live up to that. Naomi means pleasant. Well, that's a pretty cool name. But it seems like they drifted from the significance of what their names represented. They named their boys prior to their escape. This is what they named their son, Mahlon. It means sickly. Why in the world would you name your son sickly? Chilion. It means failing or gradually wasting away. What are they thinking? This is my son, little sickly, and this is my son, failing. You've got these mantles over their head that, so you think, so you are. I imagine Mahlon was a sickly kid because he probably always thought he was sick. Chilion always thinks, well, blame me, I'm failing. You know, it's interesting that in the Old Testament and really in the New Testament, names represented character qualities. And even the name you were given, you would take on that name. Now, we've lost that tradition in our culture. Several years ago, when Julie and I have been here about 7.5, going on 8 years, but before that, we lived in Alabama. And part of the role that I had when I was at Alabama is I would work with several of the athletic teams at the University of Alabama. And of course, they had names like us. They had United States names, Whitney and Cooper and Heather and, just names that you would associate with the American culture. But I always gave the students, athletes that I was working with, I gave them names based upon the character that I saw. And so I dug up, this is a list of one of the athletic teams that I worked with at the University of Alabama. And I had the tradition year after year, and I worked with these teams for like 6 years at the University of Alabama. And I would give them names based upon their character. And it became kind of a tradition. And the students really looked forward to the names they were given. And within the context of the athletic realm, they would call themselves these names. Like, for instance, here, there was a girl, her name was Kayla. I got to do her wedding ceremony, but I named her Journey because it just represented the fact that she had gone from X and she was journeying to Y. Her whole life was about becoming better. So I just named her Journey. Another girl, I named her name was Deandra, and I named her Spring. You think of spring. It just, color, beauty, everything just blossoms. Well, that's what I thought of Deandra, is that she just blossomed. And so everybody would call her Spring. Another girl, her name was Geraldine. Well, I called her Dunamis. It means dynamite. It means power, because everything that Geraldine did was just explosive and powerful. And then another girl named Kim, she was just a rock. She was a spiritual rock. She was just kind of the cornerstone of the team. Every team needed a Kim. So I named her Rock. So it's another girl, I named her 3D, because it's like you couldn't grasp her just looking at her, because to appreciate her is to get to know her and to realize, man, there's so many aspects of her. So her name was Marissa, but I called her 3D. Here's a great project for you. In the context of your family, give each other names based upon character qualities that you see. It's really a fun exercise, and it'll be interesting what you come up with. When you do, email me, text me, let me know some family names that you came up with. There's something in a name. We place value on it. There's something reverent, there's something dignified about placing quality with a name that you call someone. You get this from the Bible. Do it as a fun exercise within the context of your family. Hey, this Sunday, we're going to share something that would, from the world's perspective, could be very controversial. And so I believe it to be biblical, but it will be counter to what the culture says is honored. And so, again, we're in the book of Ruth, and so we look forward to seeing you this Sunday at either 9 or 10:30. So have a great rest of the week.